The airport terminal buzzed with the usual energy. Passengers rushing to their gates, last-minute announcements echoing over the speakers, and the steady hum of suitcase wheels rolling across the floor. On Flight 572, boarding had just begun. Flight attendants moved swiftly, helping passengers stow their luggage and find their seats. The cabin was calm until the moment Travis Kelce stepped onto the plane. Some passengers whispered excitedly, a few pulled out their phones, but not everyone was happy to see him. A flight attendant approached him, her expression cold. "I am sorry, sir, but you cannot fly with us today." The cabin fell silent. What happened next would leave the entire plane in shock. Travis Kelce, dressed casually in a hoodie and a Chiefs hat, blinked in confusion. "Excuse me?" The flight attendant did not flinch. She folded her arms, standing her ground. "Sir, we have the right to refuse service. You will need to step off the plane." Passengers started whispering. Some looked up from their seats, others glanced at one another, trying to understand what was happening. One man near the window furrowed his brows. "Wait a second, is that Travis Kelce?" Another passenger leaned forward. "Yeah, but why are they kicking him off?" Kelce, still calm, kept his voice steady. "Can you tell me why?" The flight attendant's lips pressed into a thin line. "We have a policy against promoting certain political messages," she said, eyeing his red Kansas City Chiefs hat. Passengers gasped. A woman in the row behind Kelce shook her head in disbelief. "You are kidding me," she muttered. The flight attendant squared her shoulders. "I am not, ma'am. Some passengers might find that hat offensive." The murmurs grew louder. People were now openly reacting. A businessman in a suit scoffed. "You are kicking a man off a flight because of his football team? That is absurd." The flight attendant remained firm. "Rules are rules." Travis let out a quiet laugh, shaking his head. "So, let me get this straight. You are saying a hat is a problem?" The attendant nodded. "Yes, sir." Travis looked around the plane, scanning the confused faces of the passengers, and then, before he could say another word, a deep voice spoke up from first class. "I think I just heard that wrong." The cabin fell into complete silence. Every head turned toward the front of the plane. A tall man in a tailored suit stood up from his seat, his face unreadable. It was Clark Hunt, the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs. The flight attendant's face went pale, and at that moment, everything changed. The moment Clark Hunt stood up, the entire cabin froze. Passengers who had been whispering just moments ago sat completely still. Some recognized him immediately. Others just knew that whoever this man was, he had power. The flight attendant stiffened. Her confidence, which had been unwavering just seconds ago, was now crumbling. Hunt adjusted his suit jacket and walked slowly toward Travis Kelce. He glanced at the flight attendant, his expression unreadable. "Did I just hear you correctly?" he asked, his voice calm but commanding. The flight attendant cleared her throat. "Sir, we have a policy—" Hunt cut her off. "A policy against what?" He tilted his head slightly. "Against passengers wearing hats, or against this hat?" The murmurs in the cabin grew louder. A woman near the front leaned over to her husband. She has no idea who she is talking to. The flight attendant's face turned red. "Sir, we have the right to refuse service if a passenger's clothing could cause discomfort to others." Hunt let out a quiet chuckle, shaking his head. "I have flown with this airline for years. Never once have I heard of a policy like that." The flight attendant opened her mouth to respond, but Hunt held up a hand. "I will make this simple," he said. "If Travis Kelce is not welcome on this flight, then neither am I." Gasps rippled through the cabin. The flight attendant's eyes widened. "Sir, that is not necessary." Before she could finish, another voice chimed in. "Same here," a man in business attire called from across the aisle. "This is ridiculous." Then another passenger stood up. "Yeah, if Kelce is leaving, I am leaving." One by one, passengers started rising from their seats. The flight attendant looked panicked now. She turned toward the gate agent at the front of the plane, whispering frantically. Passengers murmured louder, some shaking their heads, others recording the moment on their phones. Then, after a brief, tense moment, the flight attendant turned back, her voice unsteady. "Sir, you may take your seat." And just like that, the entire plane erupted into applause. The sound of applause filled the cabin. Some passengers clapped politely, while others cheered louder, shaking their heads at the absurdity of the situation. Travis Kelce stood still for a moment, letting it all sink in. He had not raised his voice. He had not caused a scene. And yet, the entire plane had stood up for him. The flight attendant, now looking completely flustered, tried to regain control. All right, she said, forcing a stiff smile. "Let us just all take our seats so we can get going." But Clark Hunt was not finished. He turned toward the flight attendant, his expression calm but firm. "I hope you realize the mistake you just made," he said. "You tried to kick off a man who has given his all for this country's most beloved sport. A man who has done nothing wrong except wear a team hat." The flight attendant looked down, saying nothing. A man in the back shook his head. "I have never seen anything like this. What a joke." A woman nearby added, "They need to be held accountable for this." The flight attendant bit her lip, turning toward the gate agent. She whispered something. The agent, who had been standing quietly this whole time, quickly disappeared into the jet bridge. A few moments later, the head flight supervisor walked on board. He was older, wearing a crisp uniform, and his face was tight with stress. "What is going on here?" he asked, looking between the nervous flight attendant, the gate agent, and Travis Kelce. Before anyone else could speak, Clark Hunt stepped forward. "This airline just attempted to remove one of my players from a flight," he said, for no reason other than the hat he was wearing. The supervisor's eyes widened. He turned to the flight attendant. "Is this true?" The flight attendant swallowed hard. I thought it was against policy." The supervisor let out a slow breath, pinching the bridge of his nose. Then he turned to Travis. "Sir, I deeply apologize for this situation. You are, of course, welcome to stay on this flight." The tension finally broke. Kelce grinned and gave a thumbs up. "Appreciate it. I just want to get where I'm going." The entire plane laughed. But while this flight was about to take off, the internet was just getting started. By the time the plane took off, the incident was already all over social media. A passenger sitting in first class had recorded everything, from the moment the flight attendant tried to kick Travis Kelce off to the moment Clark Hunt and the passengers stood up for him. Within hours, the video was uploaded to Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. It spread like wildfire. "Travis Kelce almost got kicked off a flight. Over a hat?" The passengers stood up for him. This is what real loyalty looks like. The hashtag number Let Kelce Fly started trending. Fans, athletes, and celebrities began chiming in. Patrick Mahomes tweeted, "My guy handled that like a champ." Other NFL players responded, calling out the ridiculous situation. Even people who were not Chiefs fans commented, "You do not have to like the Chiefs to know this was straight up wrong." Meanwhile, the airline was in full panic mode. Their social media accounts were flooded with comments. "Do you really kick people off flights for wearing sports hats?" "I was going to book with you guys next week, not anymore." The company scrambled to do damage control. By the next morning, they issued a public statement. "We sincerely regret the incident involving Mr. Kelce. This does not reflect our company's values. The flight attendant involved has been placed on leave, and we are conducting an internal review." But the damage was already done. The airline's reputation took a massive hit. Thousands of customers canceled their flights. The negative reviews flooded in. Meanwhile, Travis Kelce. He had not even made a public comment yet. But when reporters finally caught up with him after he landed, his response was perfect. A reporter asked, "What do you think about the airline apologizing?" Kelce flashed his signature grin. "I think they should worry less about my hat," he said, "and more about getting people to their destinations on time." The internet lost it. Kelce had turned the whole thing into a joke, and once again, he came out on top. The airline's apology was supposed to calm the situation, but instead, it made things worse. People were not satisfied with a generic statement. They wanted real consequences. Placing the flight attendant on leave is not enough. Are you going to change your policies, or just wait for the next PR disaster? Kelce handled this with class, but your company still looks terrible. It was getting out of control. The airline's board of executives held an emergency meeting to discuss damage control. After several hours of deliberation, they made a huge decision. They announced a major new policy change. We are officially revising our staff training to ensure no passenger is ever removed based on personal biases. Additionally, we will be inviting Mr. Kelce for a VIP flight experience to show our commitment to making things right. Fans were divided. Some said, "Good, they are actually making a change." Others were still upset. A free flight? That does not fix what happened. But what did Travis Kelce think? When a reporter asked him if he would take the VIP flight offer, he laughed. "I do not need a VIP experience," he said. "I just want to sit in my seat, enjoy my snacks, and get where I am going." The internet erupted in laughter. One fan tweeted, "Kelce just wants his peanuts and leg room, leave the man alone." But then, Kelce did something nobody expected. Instead of accepting the airline's offer, he made a request. "Instead of a VIP flight for me, how about you donate tickets to military families? Let them fly for free." The airline's PR team scrambled. They had been hoping to smooth things over quietly, but Kelce had just flipped the script. Now, the pressure was on them. If they refused, they would look even worse. If they agreed, Kelce would come out looking even more like a hero. Within 24 hours, the airline caved. They announced a new initiative to provide free flights to military families in honor of Travis Kelce. And just like that, Kelce had turned an embarrassing situation into something positive. Respect is not about power, status, or even fame. It is about doing what is right. Travis Kelce could have made this a bigger issue. He could have fought back, demanded compensation, or embarrassed the airline even more. But instead, he used the moment to help others. A situation that started with a flight attendant's bias ended with military families getting free flights. What do you think? Did the airline handle this the right way? Or was their apology too little, too late? Let us know in the comments. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more unbelievable NFL stories. Stay tuned for the next shocking and inspiring tale from the world of football.